Good afternoon. We're very happy to be with you today. My name is Tom Foley. I'm a recovering college president, but I'm now the president of something called the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities in Pennsylvania. Represents almost 90 independent nonprofit schools who are educating almost 280,000 students. I have behind me somewhere close to 100 of our students. There's 130 of them wandering around this building today who are coming from more than 20 of our schools from every corner of this Commonwealth. And I'm very happy to be joined by them. And somewhere back there is the chair of our board, the president of one of our schools, Jonathan Green, and we're happy to have Jonathan as well. Let me tell you three things about these schools and these students before I introduce a few of them to give remarks. These students and these schools are, one, determined, two, they are devoted, and three, they deliver. And let me say a little bit about each of those words. One, they are determined. They are determined to be accessible to all students in Pennsylvania. 47% of all the students who get FIA grants in this state go to one of these schools. Most people think those kids are all in publicly funded schools. They are not. They are in the independent nonprofit schools. 49% of the mature students, the adult students who are coming back to re-engineer their careers, they are in these schools. And 54% of underrepresented minorities in Pennsylvania are not in publicly funded schools. They are in these institutions. In fact, 40 of these schools, more than 30% of their student body, are students getting FIA grants, which is the only money these institutions receive. 20 of those schools, more than 40% of their student body, and of the 13 schools in Pennsylvania that over half of their student body receiving FIA grants, 9 of them are represented right behind me. There's one community college, 2 historically black universities, and then one branch campus of a state-related school. So they're determined to be accessible, and you can see those examples right behind me. They're also determined to be affordable. And that is the hard work that is done by people like Jonathan Green and the 90 college presidents of these schools. What do I mean when I say affordable? The average tuition and fees, according to the U.S. Department of Education for these schools, is under $13,000. Why does that matter? That's less than it was 10 years ago, not inflation adjusted. And that is about $2,000 less than the average net tuition and fees at state-related institutions. So they work hard to be affordable. These kids come out with, on average, less debt than their compatriots in those other institutions. So they're determined. They're determined to be accessible to all students, and they're determined to be affordable. Secondly, they are devoted. And they're devoted to two things. One, they're devoted to excellence, and secondly, they're devoted to community. What do we mean by excellence? These kids have the highest graduation rate of any sector of higher education in Pennsylvania. They have the highest completion rate, which means they get done in 4 years. And they have the lowest default rate. What does that mean? It means they don't default on their loans because they get out, they get jobs, and they pay back any money that they borrow. So they're devoted to excellence in the classroom and eventually in the workplace. They're also devoted to community. These kids put in more than 5.3 million hours of volunteer service in the communities in which their schools are embedded. My little school was called Mount Aloysius College. We had 1,200 students. Those kids did 28,000 hours of volunteer service every year with over 300 different nonprofit groups, 400 different projects in 5 counties. And that is very typical of every one of the schools that stands behind me. So they're devoted. They're devoted to excellence, and they're devoted to their communities. The last thing I want to tell you about these students and these schools is that they deliver, the third D. They deliver in terms of the Pennsylvania economy. They deliver in terms of our workforce. They deliver in terms of community, and they deliver. These kids deliver back to the Pennsylvania taxpayer. Let me tell you how. One, they're devoted, they deliver to the Pennsylvania economy. Believe it or not, higher education is the 5th largest industrial sector in Pennsylvania. I'm a former Secretary of Labor and Industry. I remember being surprised 20-some years ago when I held that job to find that out. What does that mean? Well, we did an independent economic impact study. These schools generate $24 billion in GNP value to the Pennsylvania economy every year. Just to put that in context, the state budget here is $48 billion. $24 billion of GNP impact every year. 1 in every $30 in this economy has something to do with one of these schools. It's a huge competitive advantage. These schools also support over 195,000 jobs. That's 1 in every 32 jobs in this Commonwealth. So these schools deliver in terms of the Pennsylvania economy. They also deliver in terms of workforce. You know, they graduate almost 80,000 students a year. About half our students come from out of state. 1 in 5 of the out-of-state students stay here. That means 44,000 new workers graduate from these schools and stay in Pennsylvania every year. That is the largest contribution of any higher ed sector by a factor of 2. The reality is these schools provide 69% of all our nurses in Pennsylvania. They provide 55% of all our STEM workers in Pennsylvania. And we just had a session in this very hall on teachers. 45% of all the teachers in Pennsylvania come from these schools. So they deliver in terms of workforce in Pennsylvania. They also deliver in terms of community. I mentioned earlier that they're embedded in these schools have been embedded for an average of 138 years. Think about that for a minute. My school is now 175 years old. They were here as some of these communities were just evolving and growing, like Dickinson and Carlisle, et cetera. They're in 60 towns and cities across this Commonwealth, and I ask you to think for 1 minute, what would those towns and cities be like if these institutions were not there? They are economic generators, they are community partners. They do thousands of summer and school year programs that would not exist except for these schools. The single largest campus-based Special Olympics program in the world is at one of these schools, Villanova, who's here today. We have thousands of small businesses in Pennsylvania benefit because 8 of these schools behind me have small business development centers that provide services to them. We have 1 school in the Northeast that's the only autism center in a 13-county region. And I could go on with those kind of contributions. We have 1,000 kids in Pittsburgh who get free dental care every year because of one of these schools. They're part of the community in a very real partnership sense. Lastly, I just want to tell you, they deliver. I don't think you think about this when you're a student. They deliver back to the Pennsylvania taxpayer. The only dollars that go to these schools come with the kids who have FIA grants. And you can take the GNP value, divide it by the amount of money you get from the FIA grants. The return on investment is 148 to 1. As a former cabinet secretary, I can tell you that would just blow my budget right out the door. Everybody would have to approve it. If these schools did not exist and the Commonwealth had to educate these students, it would be another $1 billion every single year average cost. The average cost to the Commonwealth for each student who will graduate behind me is $2,102, and that's all in FIA grants over 4 years. The average cost at a publicly funded institution is 10 times that. So they deliver back to Pennsylvania taxpayers, even though I would venture to guess they don't think about that when they're going to school. But we think about that as a group of people who represent them. So just want you to know that these students and these schools are determined, they are devoted, and they certainly deliver. Now, somebody once said that a school building is just 4 walls with tomorrow inside. Let me introduce you to a couple of tomorrows now who will say a few words about their experiences at their institutions. First person I want to introduce is Scott Gartley. He's currently a junior attending Marywood in Scranton. He studies history and law. He's currently preparing to take the LSAT, hardest exam I ever took. And he hopes to continue with a career as a lawyer. Scott, if you want to kick us off, that would be great.
Hi everyone. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit shorter, so I gotta lower the mic a little bit. But like you said, my name is Scott. I'm from Marywood University. With an eye towards law school, I've been an active on-the-go student the last 3 years, and to highlight why funding for independent nonprofit colleges and universities is so important, let me tell you my story. I was raised by two incredibly hardworking parents in a household where money wasn't always easy. I'll never forget the pain and the brutal honesty in my mother's eyes as she told me that not many schools would be able to afford me the financial aid that would make a 4-year university possible. Then, a series of events unfolded that profoundly changed my life. I was introduced to Marywood by a family friend, and from there, everything took off. I was drew to the school from the moment I applied, from being accepted to receiving my scholarship, one akin to the Pennsylvania Ready to Succeed scholarship, my financial aid. It felt like a school I could call home. And suddenly, something that felt impossible for so long was now over the horizon because of the financial aid I received. Flash forward 3 years, and my life has changed in so many ways because of Marywood. I've become somebody I never thought I could be, made friends and memories that will last me a lifetime, and found myself, despite so much anxiety and worry about the future. I have Marywood and my financial aid package to thank for that. As unique as my story might seem, there are thousands of students across the state of Pennsylvania who are just like me. They are students who will, give me 1 second. Like I said, my financial aid package changed my life, and there are thousands of other students across Pennsylvania who will have the same outcome because of the funding delivered to independent nonprofit colleges and universities. The PA State Grant, the PA Ready to Succeed Scholarship, is responsible and can continue to be responsible for changing so many lives. They aren't just forms of financial aid, but they're hope. For so many students, they are hope. They are life-changing opportunities to thousands of hardworking students across the state. It is a source of joy and relief for parents who have sacrificed so much for their children and now get to see those sacrifices pay off as their children go off to school because of the financial aid packages they have received. Above all things, it is a source of hope, to hope that tomorrow and every day after is a brighter, more hopeful future. To support the Pennsylvania State Grant and the Pennsylvania Ready to Succeed Scholarship is to support that fight. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Scott, and I hope that's not the last time in your legal career that you're speaking from this podium. Our second speaker is about to graduate, Ashley King, in the next month. She's a senior at Lafayette, pursuing policy studies and economics with a concentration, and I love this, on education policy. Ashley grew up in Queens, New York, and during her long time at Lafayette, she was able to study abroad in London as well. Ashley?
In a few weeks' time, I will be a Lafayette graduate. And although I'm brimming with excitement about my future prospects, I cannot help but think about how fast the past 4 years I prepared my whole life for have flown by. I do not say this regrettably. I say this knowing that to be a part of a citywide economic development project my freshman year is an invaluable experience. To be afforded the policy scholarship to a fine liberal arts institution is a privilege not lost on me. And to study abroad in London for 3 months is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. At an early age, I gleaned an esteemed impression of college from my immigrant parents. They held that college was the great equalizer, a pathway to a successful career and social mobility. This remains true about education. But education is also about falling in love with learning. It's about equipping young adults with knowledge and heart to be change makers. There are boundless possibilities to come of students' individual idiosyncrasies and curiosities being nurtured. Curiosity is undervalued, but it's the precursor to great discovery, worldview, and acquisition of knowledge. In reflection, my 4 years at Lafayette College have proven to be an endless quest to live curiously. I've become a values-based problem solver, studying solutions to wicked problems, like how to mitigate the economic and educational divestment I witnessed in disadvantaged communities growing up. Meanwhile, I've also been empowered to bring my Caribbean heritage to campus in artful and symbiotic ways that gives others permission to do the same. My insatiable desire to learn was primed and fueled at Lafayette. We are encouraged not to be siloed by a degree or relegated to a particular faction of academia. I believe Lafayette's commitment to promoting intellectual curiosity and interdisciplinary exploration is a necessary service that, with continued support, has and will continue to shape well-rounded individuals ready to have the powerful influence far beyond the institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. That was beautifully said, especially the part about living curiously. Thank you. Our next speaker is Caitlin Pascoe, who grew up in Hanover, Pennsylvania, not too far from here. She's currently studying at Elizabethtown, where she majors in marketing and design. She works on campus, but she still makes time to be a volunteer, which is a very typical story of our students. Whoops. Oh, that's okay. Are you all right? Yes, I'm okay. Thank you. You're fine. Great. Not at all. That's a hard-working student right there. Caitlin, the mic is yours.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Caitlin Pascoe, and I am a junior marketing and graphic design double major from Elizabethtown College, and I'm originally from Hanover, PA. Education is often referred to as the great equalizer, and for good reason. It has the power to uplift individuals, families, and entire communities, regardless of background or circumstance. Independent nonprofit schools like Elizabethtown and College embody this principle by providing an education that is rooted in values and focused on excellence. I attend Elizabethtown College with scholarships and student loans. I work 3 on-campus jobs during the school year and 1 campus job during the summer. On top of this, I apply for grants and scholarships elsewhere. When not working a campus job, I run my own cleaning business, Clean by Cat, and all of these things help me pay my way through school. I personally participate in Elizabethtown College's motto, Educate for Service. I like to participate in events like Into the Streets, or as well as being the vice president of Emotion, an all-inclusive dance club on campus. All 150 of our members participate in over 300 hours of community service a school year and donate $5,000 to charity. Schools like Elizabethtown College often have the flexibility to innovate and tailor their education programs to meet the unique needs of their students. They can offer specialized curricular, smaller class sizes, and a more personalized learning environment. All of these reasons are why I chose Elizabethtown, specifically when having a learning disability. When students are juggling work, studies, and applying for grants to fund their education, their actions speak volumes. College is accessible, and possible. Let's support the initiatives that make education a reality for all, empowering individuals to achieve their dreams and build a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. That's also a very typical story. Caitlin, 3 jobs on campus and volunteers off campus. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Our last speaker today is Deshaun Sheffield. He's a freshman at Lafayette, comes to Easton where he studies government and law. He plans to pursue a career in diplomacy. Originally from Newark, New Jersey, Deshaun has expanded his horizons here in Pennsylvania, and he is even planning to study abroad this summer in Moldova in Eastern Europe. Welcome, Deshaun.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deshaun Sheffield. I am from Newark, New Jersey, and as it's stated, I am a freshman at Lafayette College, majoring in government and law. I stand before you to shed light on the benefits of the PA State Grant and Ready to Succeed scholarships and the profound impact of Lafayette College on my educational journey. As a first-hand beneficiary of the PA State Grant program, I can further attest to its transformative power. As a first-generation student, my journey with the PA State Grant and Ready to Succeed scholarships has not only alleviated the financial burden of pursuing higher education well beyond my reach, but has also opened doors to opportunities that I also once deemed beyond my reach. I've been able to cover tuition fees and textbooks, with every dollar playing a pivotal role in my academic journey. Now let's shift our focus to Lafayette College and its indispensable role in shaping my educational landscape. Lafayette fosters a sense of belonging, community, and purpose, and instills in students a commitment to lifelong learning, ethical leadership, and service to others. As a freshman at Lafayette, I've been challenged to think critically, encouraged to pursue my passions, and supported every step of the way. Whether that means serving on the National Vice Presidential Debate Committee or even conducting research this summer in Moldova and Eastern Europe, the college's commitment to excellence has enriched my educational experience and has prepared me for the challenges that lie ahead in my college career. ACO's advocacy for programs like the PA State Grant Ready to Succeed scholarships and the pivotal role of institutions like Lafayette College, Marywood University, and Elizabethtown College are further intertwined in the pursuit of educational equity and excellence. As we continue to champion these causes, let us remember that education is not just a privilege, it is a right, one that should be accessible to all. Together, let us strive to build a future where every student has the opportunity to thrive and succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deshaun. Another very articulate young messenger. He talked a little bit about the FIA program, and we'll end on that. FIA is a 60-year-old organization. It is the only assistance that goes to these schools and to these students that comes from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. These schools represent the largest such association in America. Think about that for a second. 50 states. No one has a larger association of independent nonprofit schools than Pennsylvania, educating hundreds of thousands of students every single year. That's a huge competitive advantage for Pennsylvania, that these students are being educated for the most part without giant subsidies from the state. But the state is very generous in supporting students who come from backgrounds like mine and many of these students. Pennsylvania is the 7th most generous state in the country per capita for aid to low-income students. That is something to be proud of. That is something that we should be broadcasting, so we'll have even more students who have the wonderful stories like these. Thank you especially to our 4 speakers. I started off by saying that a school building is just 4 walls with tomorrow inside. I think you can see we have 4 very, very bright tomorrows in front of us and 100 more behind them. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.